What's up, Zags? I'm Kendall Weideman, your executive producer, and today we are doing the last Bracketology show. So let's get into it. I'm kind of thinking I was in 96th place, so I'm hoping you're gonna do a lot better in the Bracketology standings. So let's find out what you did. Let's get it.
Welcome to our final Bracketology. Although the Zags lost in the Elite Eight, we are full of pride for our men's and women's basketball teams. I'm Elise Jowett.
And I'm Patrick Keneally. Coming up, we have our last sports talk, Bracketology winners, and Twitter reactions. There's a lot to be hyped up about, so let's get in the zone for Bracketology.
It's the moment you all have been waiting for, the Bracketology winners. Let's pass it over to Miles Royston with more.
Thanks, Elise. Let's see who won the overall Bracketology this year for 2023. Jordan Corder was the overall winner with 235 points. Let's go, Jordan. With all the crazy upsets this year, your bracket really scored by having UConn in your Final Four. We have two people tied in second place. We got Sean and Trevor, both with a final score of 234. Congratulations to our overall winners. To add to the madness, you all were also our winners in the Alumni category. The student that has been crowned the Bracketology winner is Patrick Keneally, our very own anchor. Patrick, you're going to have to tell us some of those secrets to a winning bracket. In second place is our floor director, Naomi Ray Grant. Way to go, Naomi. And last but definitely not least, our technical director, Zach McKimmey, who placed third. Zach and Naomi didn't choose Gonzaga as their top picks, unfortunately. We call those traitors around here. We also saved the best for last, the friends and family category. In first place, we have Rick Lubke. Second place is Frank Swoboda, and we have a tie in third with Carol and Kathy. Let's go. Congratulations to all of our winners, and we can't wait to see how everyone does next year in the 2024 Bracketology standings. I'll pass it back to Patrick and Elise at the desk.
Thanks so much, Miles. This year was definitely crazy for Bracketology. Patrick, we have to know how you feel about coming in first place in the student category.
I'm just ecstatic. I mean, it's the greatest honor of my life, I don't mind telling you.
Oh.
I'm sure everyone is still talking about this amazing shot by Julian Strother. This shot is what took the Zags to the Elite Eight. The Zags were down by 10 points at half, but soon they overcame UCLA. As the game was super close, Hunter Salas passed the ball to Strother, who took a shot at a three-pointer from the March Madness court logo. And he made it. Definitely a known feeling for UCLA to have the Zags take that three-pointer in the last seconds to advance us. I'll be the first to remind you all that Jalen Suggs had a buzzer-beater three-pointer against UCLA in 2021.
And Patrick, those last 8 seconds were definitely madness, but I guess that's why they call it March Madness. But we cannot forget about Drew Timme scoring an outstanding 36 points during that game. The final score for Gonzaga, 79 versus UCLA, 76. Kennedy, how did you feel watching the Zags versus UCLA game? Well, I know when I was watching that game, I was definitely a little bit stressed, especially heading into our senior year, but the Zags really pulled through at the end.
Yeah, it was a really tough game to watch as well. I mean, we were just losing in the first minute, and it never got better.
Yep.
Well, what a roller coaster these last couple weeks have been. Coming up, we're going to talk about the NCAA Women's March Madness Tournament, with the student reactions are to the Zags and our sports talk from Matt Corey. We're going to take a quick time out before, but we'll see you again soon.
Go Zags!
Go Zags!
Go Zags!
Go Zags!
Go Zags!
Go Zags! Go Zags!
Go Zags!
Until next time, I'm Greg Talbot. Go Zags!
Go Zags!
Go Zags!
Litter Captain, the world needs you. You know what to do.
I'm on it. You there!
Not the litter captain!
Don't litter, or I'll be bitter.
Welcome back to Bracketology. I am so excited to share the Women's March Madness results with you, and in a bit we'll look at the campus reactions about the Zags season finale. Let's discuss the Women's March Madness journey. The Zags lost early in the bracket, but the tournament has still been so much fun to watch. On March 31st, the South Carolina vs. Iowa game became the most viewed NCAA basketball game on ESPN since 2008, with an average of 5.5 million viewers. But that's not all that broke records. Caitlin Clark broke the NCAA record with a historic 40-point triple-double in the Elite Eight, while dropping another 40-plus points in a win against undefeated South Carolina in the next round. A major upset. And Clark's 191 points set a new record for a player in a single tournament, a record for both men's and women's basketball. However, LSU ended up taking the championship, defeating Iowa 102-85. Overall, the tournament was a major win for women's basketball.
Hearts have been a little bit heavy around Gonzaga's campus ever since we lost to UConn. So let's turn it over to Matt Corey with the student reaction after the Zags loss.
I'm here on Bulldog Alley asking GU students their thoughts after the tough loss to UConn last Saturday. Let's see what they have to say. What did you think about the Zags game on Saturday?
It was pretty horrendous. It gave me bad flashbacks to Baylor.
It was pretty disappointing. I thought we had a good tournament up to that point, but UConn was definitely the better team.
I don't know, just kind of watching the other games makes me even more sad. Not sure if I want UConn to win or lose right away, but yeah, it's definitely upsetting.
You know, I've kind of moved on. I thought that the Elite Eight was a pretty good place to reach.
After playing UCLA, I thought they were a really solid team, and doing well against them, I thought, well, we got this against UConn. I mean, it's not going to be much different, but yeah, pretty sad after that. That night was definitely just wanted to go to bed. But
just sad. I got to say, though, I've been there before with Baylor, so.
It wasn't like it was like a buzzer beater at the end, which might have been harder to deal with, but yeah. Just sad.
I gotta say, like, not being in the Final Four, I can focus on school a bit more rather than like having to choose between basketball and getting my schoolwork done.
Well, watching those reactions, I definitely empathize with them. So proud of the Zags for making it to the Elite Eight, but as seniors, it's pretty heartbreaking to watch that loss.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, especially now that so much of our team is going, and that was their last chance, and it's a little disappointing.
Yeah.
Oh well. Well, we're going to make a fast break over to Matt Corey, who has our last sports talk. Matt, take it away.
Thanks, Patrick. It is time for everyone's favorite segment on Bracketology, Sports Talk. Once again, I am joined by Professor Dr. Ryan Turcotte and Gonzaga Bulletin editor Cole Forsman. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Doing great, Matt.
How do we think about that tournament? Just crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean, crazy right from the opening weekend. I mean, Furman's buzzer beater, that was like the defining moment of that weekend. And just as you went on, it was upset after upset. And it was teams that were experienced, that played well together. That Final Four, there was no All-American out there, right? It wasn't one individual star, and some people, have their own opinions on that, if it was great for the sport or not. But, I mean, from the game winner in the Final Four to the championship, the dominance that we've seen from UConn, overall, great tournament, even though it was so unpredictable.
Yeah, and on the women's side, it was one of the best women's tournaments, maybe ever, at least in recent memory. Sold out arenas, media viewership through the roof, amazing Final Four, semifinals, and championship. Big names like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, the South Carolina team, and whether they could run the table and win it. But I think we'll look back and say this was kind of the women's tournament that gained a lot of ground on the men's tournament in terms of just interest and ticket sales and media viewership. So all around, I think the men's and women's tournament were a tremendous success.
That Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, that could become a rivalry if both decide to stay next year too, which I think would be very interesting if we get to see that.
Right.
Shifting things a little bit, we saw in at least the men's championship game, both coaches, Brian Dutcher, San Diego State, trying to get out of the shadow of legendary coach Steve Fisher. Danny Hurley getting out of the shadow of his dad, who was a legendary high school coach, and of course his brother Bobby Hurley, two-time national champ as a player and a great coach himself. What can you both say about, starting with you, Cole, talking about the Hurley family?
Yeah, I mean, the Hurleys, their legacy just it's unbeatable now in terms of a family, how they've all gotten there, really working class family. And I mean, you could see it. I saw a video the other day of both Bobby and both the Hurley brothers coaching, and they're so intense and they're passionate about the game. And I think that's kind of, how they got to this point is, they're locked in, they're focused, and they know the game well. For the UConn coach Hurley, he also adds his name to a great list of UConn coaches, win a national championship with the program. He keeps them 5-0 and really kind of makes them a blue blood, right? So just really happy for him. And yeah, he's a joy to watch on the sideline with how fired up he gets.
Yeah, and Coach Dutcher, he paid his dues. He was with Fisher since the 90s. He was there when Michigan lost to Carolina with the Chris Webber timeout. I think Fisher kind of established that culture, but Dutcher was there. He understands the culture, how to recruit. They're a proven program now, and I don't think they're going to go anywhere. I think they're going to continue the success. One of the best teams, I think, on the West Coast now. They have a lot of pieces coming back, and so a lot of times assistant coaches don't really get their chance to shine, and he did. He has an amazing relationship with Fisher, who was in attendance at the national championship game and throughout the tournament run. So well deserved. I mean, he worked for it, he earned it, and again, I think we'll be seeing more of San Diego State going forward. So unbelievable run.
So do we think that still haven't had that West Coast champ since 1998 with Arizona? But, West Coast teams are coming up and showing out now. San Diego State, who would have thought they've done this? Even the COVID year, they were going to be a projected 2 or 1 seed that season. UCLA, they've started to come back, and Gonzaga's always there. Do we think that this is a sign that comes, or is UConn just in the East Coast is going to continue to do it with this new blue blood that's coming in UConn?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is. The West Coast is getting closer. I think Gonzaga has been there 2 times now to the national title game. I think Arizona is really knocking on the door. I think Tommy Lloyd has changed that culture. They're going to continue to recruit big and get internationals that are some of the best in the world. So I think we're really close to getting a West Coast champion, a UCLA. I think USC. Some of the other maybe mid-majors on the West Coast, could St. Mary's squeak in there? So I think we are getting closer. I don't like to see the East Coast dominance. As a West Coast person, I like to see more representation, but getting to the national title, I think, is going to help recruiting, and it's going to help the marketability of the West Coast programs. So I think within the next couple of years, hopefully next year, we will see a West Coast champion.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see now with NIL and the transfer portal how players move about. That's one area Gonzaga might struggle in, is that NIL area. But in just terms of the West Coast as a whole, to go off that, yeah, I think Arizona is probably a team that's going to be on the rise for a while. But the talent, it's spread thin. You think of the Pac-12, you think Arizona and UCLA, USC can be on the come up with a great recruiting class here and there. But for the most part, it's those East schools. It's the teams that the Big East. Every year they bring back players. They're experienced. They're tough to beat. The Big 12 is arguably the best conference, right there with the Big 10, and now maybe in the Big East. So I think just on the West Coast, it's tough when the really major Power 5 conference is the Pac-12, and that's where players want to go, and it's between USC and UCLA.
Couldn't agree more. I think Mountain West coming on the rise, though. San Diego State might even make a jump to the Pac-12 when UCLA and USC go to the Big Ten in just a year. Right. We have more sports talk coming up for you with a preview of the Zags next season, but Bracketology will continue after we do a little traveling. Back to the desk.
You probably don't know me.
I don't know you.
I don't know where you're from.
Or who your friends are.
Or what church you attend.
Or what school you attend.
I don't know if you're an athlete.
Or if you're an artist.
And I'll be honest.
It doesn't matter who you are.
Or who you love.
It's okay if you're gay.
All that matters
is that you love who you are.
It gets better.
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 I want to be a well-respected actor.
I want to be a therapist.
I want to be a supermodel.
I want to be a history teacher.
I want to climb mountains in New Zealand.
I want to change the world through education of young minds.
I want to be an artist for, I don't know, but I just want to be an artist.
I want to be a marine biologist.
I want to be a doctor and save lives. Okay, class, you have 60 minutes, and it's 240 points.
And we're back with Bracketology. I know I'm excited to see our alumni in action and a look behind the scenes at College Game Day's visit. But first, let's talk about what has been happening on social media. We're back after some technical difficulties. Kennedy, how did you feel watching that Zags versus UCLA game?
You know, Elise, I have to say I was very stressed. I even tried to switch locations up at halftime, switch the juju. You know, maybe make the Zags win all by myself. Obviously, that didn't work out, but that's all right. All right, Zag fans, let's take a look at what was said over Twitter. So our first tweet is going to be Drew Timme dropping 35, pulling back up to campus. Yes, I have to say, you know, Drew played one heck of a game, and that actually makes him our top leading scorer at Gonzaga now. Our next tweet is going to be Jalen Suggs watching Julian Strother hit a game-winning 3 to beat UCLA in March. I'm sure Jalen was getting some flashbacks there. Our next one is going to be time for the highest-rated women's college basketball game of all time. Let's freaking go Hawks. Yes, Caitlin Clark put on a show, to say the least. She played an amazing game, bringing great viewership to women's college basketball. Our next one is going to be time for a drip check. LSU's coach Kim Mulkey arrives in head-to-toe pink frills for the Tigers' Sweet 16 game. She was putting on a fashion show, for sure. I love to see it. Our next one is going to be the same thing from Coach Kim Mulkey, National Championship Fit Check. She came dressed in tiger sequins, head-to-toe suit, looking great. Love to see it. All right, now that we've had some time on social media, I'm going to send it back to the desk. But first, I have a question for the both of you. What team surprised you guys the most in this year's March Madness?
That's a great question, Kennedy. I'm going to say FAU. I was not expecting them to make it that far, and they were really exciting to watch. How about you, Patrick?
Yeah, we love an underdog story for sure. I think the thing that shocked me was just Arizona toppling that early in the tournament. That was crazy.
You're so right, yeah.
Well, here at GUTV, we love our alumni. There is something so special about seeing where our past Zags are currently. I'm going to pass it over back to Kennedy Early with more.
GUTV's alumni have made many strides in the field of broadcasting. This week's alumni, Ceila Del Rosario, has taken a different approach in her broadcasting career. Celia's journey began unlike the rest. During her sophomore year, she changed her major from public relations to broadcasting.
I look back on it and think that I see that it was a good path from broadcast into my position here, where I started as the production manager, and that eventually evolved to my role now.
She now works here in Spokane at Life Center Church as the volunteer and student director.
I am our main music director on the weekends, and then I'm also our lighting director as well as our student worship director, so I oversee our youth worship. It's a fun job. I get to play music with my friends, and it's in service to people, which kind of aligns with Gonzaga's mission as well. To care for the whole person and specifically the spiritual side.
Ceila has been attending Life Center Church since she was 11 years old and began working there as a production manager, where she used skills learned at GUTV.
As the production director, I was our main technical director every weekend. I mean, you work with people and you work in a team, so you learn collaboration in GUTV, and you do the same thing out in the real world as well.
Ceila also gave some advice to keep in mind as students go through their 4 years at Gonzaga.
I just believe in, college because of the critical thinking that comes with that. So lean into that stuff. Those are the things that will translate universally to any profession you go into after this.
For GUTV, I'm Kennedy Early.
Wow, that is a lot of work she does. That is amazing.
I totally agree. I never even thought of that as a career path, but obviously someone needs to be doing all that behind the scenes work.
And just the scale of those sets is pretty amazing.
I totally agree with you, yeah.
Well, we have a behind the scenes look at when College Game Day came to town. Elise, you're up here reporting with us, and you were anchoring that day for ESPN. Tell us a bit about that experience.
It's one of those days I'm going to look back on and just be so proud to be a Zag. I'm so thankful to the student team and the professors who put that whole thing together.
Well, that is really wonderful, Elise. GUTV's contribution to College Game Day was all student-led. Thanks to Trinity Wilhite on camera, Kendall Weideman, our coordinating producer, and Carson Scallon, who was videographer, who made this wonderful behind-the-scenes story.
You wanted it, you got it. Now here's the deal, Kendall. Are you going to show up? I mean, we're talking about, we need you there like 6 o'clock in the morning.
I was approached after my advanced broadcast class. Our professor John came up to us and he was like, "Hey, we've got a big opportunity heading our way."
All right, we are now joined by Elise Jowed, who is a senior journalism and broadcast student at Gonzaga, and she's out there in the action. It looks a little chilly. It's dark outside. It's like 6 a.m. there. What's the atmosphere like out there?
Oh my God, the atmosphere is so electric, Christine.
The day before,
we got all of our equipment out, then we went over to the kennel, then we tested all the things out. I had to mess around with the gimbal.
We were like, okay, where are we setting this shot up? We're gonna get this all set up perfect. And we tested it all out.
The next day, the morning of, we went over to outside of the kennel.
It was really intense, and it also was just getting worse. So when we had all the malfunctions that were going on.
The IFB, it would not stay in my ear at all. I couldn't hear what they were saying.
I was coordinating producer, so I got to talk with fans, and then I also got to pick the fan that we talked to for Elise to interview. So then I had to hype up the fans, which was very interesting. The energy was it was honestly, for 4:30 in the morning, it was insane. I've never seen students so dedicated before. And then once we got inside, the kennel, I don't think I've ever heard it that loud, honestly.
St. Mary's, number 12 Gonzaga. Bulldogs have an 8-2 record.
This place is nuts.
It was amazing.
People were finally letting loose, and you could see all the really cool signs that everybody had, and all the crazy costumes that people came up with. Like, you could definitely feel like the passion that kids have for Gonzaga basketball.
Getting to be a part of this huge production for Gonzaga, like, that's kind of a dream, honestly. Like, not a lot of students were able to do that.
I think one thing about having an entirely like student-run crew, it shows just how capable we are. I think it makes everyone in the crew so confident in our ability to actually enter this field after graduation. And it shows just that we're passionate and we can create quality work that can go on a network like ESPN and look just as good as someone who graduated 20 years ago entering the workforce. I think it's really cool to see students be successful at what they do.
I have to say, it was definitely one of the most proud moments I've ever had, was being with 2 other very strong female broadcasting students.
We have to fight a little harder to get recognized, but I think it kind of just, the payoff feels that much better when we do get recognized.
So there's not a lot of women in the broadcasting field, so to have 3 of us from broadcasting in Gonzaga to do this ESPN show was incredible and something I will definitely never forget.
There's room for women in sports, there's room for women in broadcast, and this just goes to show like we're the next generation of people in broadcast and we're gonna kill it. That's all I have to say.
Elise, what was it like rewatching that day? Tell us.
You know, it brought back all those emotions. I will say sometimes I cringe watching myself on camera, but Carson did such a good job putting that whole video together. So we're gonna take a quick break so you can run to the snack stand and get a drink and some nachos for the rest of the show. After the break, we'll throw it to Matt for a continued sports talk and take a look at the season ahead. We'll see you soon.
You inside? Yeah. I'm just coming home. Bye.
Amy, wake up! Wake up! Here are your keys. I took them from you last night.
Well, we missed you while you were at the snack stand, but we are so happy that you've come back to join us with your nachos. Hey, Patrick, what do nachos taste like if you steal them?
I don't know, Elise. What do they taste like?
Nacho cheese. That's what they taste like.
You know, Elise, I think that was one of the cheesiest jokes I've ever heard. It just ain't easy being so cheesy, is it?
Okay, enough with the jokes. We're gonna shoot it over to Matt for our last sports talk about the future of the Zags in the 2024 season. Take it away, Matt.
We know you missed us so much that we thought we'd run it back like UConn will try to next season for one final sports talk. For this segment, we are going to talk about the future of the Zags and next season. So guys, thanks for sticking around for another segment. What do we think about the Zags next year, both men and women? Women, we got a lot of returners coming back, but men, not so much. What do we think?
Yeah, I mean, on the men's side, you just kind of pointed to it. I mean, how many guys are leaving next year? We already know. Timmy Strother is a potential first-rounder, and then Dom Harris and Hunter Salas have just entered the portal, and they've already heard from a handful of schools. So
big surprise with Salas too. That one was shocking.
Yeah, I know, and you look at it, and you always the potential to come back, of course. But we just kind of have to play with the fact that he's moving on, and he's going to find success somewhere else. But yeah, and really, there's no direction with the program. We kind of talked about earlier. They've always had a sense of where they're going. They have these up and coming, guys who have sat on the bench for 1 year or two. But in this day of college basketball, you don't get that with NIL, right? Just like we've seen, guys want opportunities, and great for them. But for the Zags, there's opportunities in the portal. They got, I think, a few names on their list right now. Kelly Ware from Oregon. He's a great big center. Blocked a lot of shots last year off the bench. And then Steele Venters from Eastern, who is a great shooter. So a lot of names out there, but very interesting to see where they're going to go.
Dr. Turcotte, the women, they have entire starting five potentially coming back. Yvonne Ejim's the big question if she's going to go to the WNBA or not. What do you think about that program just sticking together? 28-4 this year. Can they make another deep run?
Yeah, I mean, I think high expectations for the Gonzaga women's team next year. As you said, a lot of the starters coming back. They need Ejim. I mean, she is one of the best low post players, I think, in the country. I also think they have one of the best point guards in the country, Kaylin Trong. So they have a lot coming back, high expectations. I think looking at their non-conference schedule, I think it's really important that they get into some tournaments, play some SEC teams, get ready for the national tournament, because the national tournament, they're going to see the Ole Misses, the Tennessees, the South Carolinas, the Iowas. So, getting ready for that, I think, to learn from the men's side on the Gonzaga men's team is you have to really boost up your non-conference schedules. You can't be scheduling any kind of, softies. You got to get in there and find the big teams, find the big programs, play them on their court, because when it gets down to the national tournament, that experience is going to pay off. But I think Gonzaga fans should be very excited and optimistic about the women's team for next year.
You mentioned scheduling. Maui Jim Maui next year with the men's, big teams like UCLA, Kansas already invited into that tournament. Do you think that can help them prepare a lot better on the men's side than not really playing in a big tournament, preseason tournament this season because they didn't?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be a younger group, as we've seen, and it's going to be a lot of big battles early on. And I think that's going to be great for them. We'll see how each team's looking at the start of next season, where they fall in the poll and all that. But to play in big tournaments like that, where the best teams are going to play, I think that raises a level of expectation for them heading into the season. Of course, we know they have their tune-up games to start, and that's to get their feet wet. But Mark Few, he loves to just jump right in and get that experience playing against the best of the best. So we'll see how that goes for them. I know they've had success there in the past, and I'm sure it's going to be a lot of roster tinkering at that point too. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say kind of go back to the offseason. I think this is maybe one of the biggest off-seasons for the Gonzaga men's team in recent memory. And so that's going to be an early test. That's a November tournament. Maybe they'll have 1 or 2 games under their belt before that tournament. And so you're kind of getting thrown into the fire. Are these new guys going to be ready? Are we going to see new leadership from Nolan Hickman, from Ben Gregg? Is Anton Watson going to be around? Are the new transfers or is the Dusty Stormer going to be ready to play? So a lot of question marks. And, Gonzaga basketball fans are not really patient. They don't really believe in a rebuilding year. And so if Gonzaga doesn't do well, I think there'll be a lot of pressure from the fan base, from the alumni, because they don't really tolerate the rebuilding. So, yeah, it's a loaded field in Maui. It's going to be fun. And hopefully they can win a couple games. But again, if they can't, I'm sure there'll be kind of some panic from the fan base.
Yeah, you mentioned the fan base. I mean, I just think, at least in the past 10 years, they've had a top 4 seed 8 tournaments, only 2. I think 2014 they had an 8, lost in the second round to Arizona. 2016 had an 11, but still made the Sweet 16. So it's going to be very interesting to see that. One last question for you guys. What was your favorite moment from just either Gonzaga's season or the college basketball, both men and women as a whole?
Wow.
You want to go?
Man, favorite moment from this season. I mean, for the Zags, probably seeing Drew Timme pass that record. I know it didn't happen here, but just watching on TV in that moment for him, kind of just summed up his whole career as one of the best to be a Zag. I think specific tournament, I had Virginia going very far in the tournament. We'll preface with that. So watching JP Peegs, I believe, knocked down that shot for Furman off the steal. Heartbreaking, but also what a way to kick off the tournament.
Yeah, I think Fairleigh Dickinson beating Purdue was unbelievable. That was just out of this world. No one saw that coming. You know, hearing the storylines from FDU come out were pretty remarkable. But again, you know, we're Gonzaga people. Seeing Julian Strother hit that shot after he didn't have a great game going to that point, playing his hometown, you know, that was an unbelievable shot. So I think I'll remember that one, you know, from this tournament. But the women's side too. Again, I think they're just made so much. You know, there was so much growth in that. I feel like they're really kind of are getting closer to kind of the parallel of the men's game in terms of just attention and media following. And so, you know, I think that everyone will remember the Caitlin Clark run and going for 40 for multiple games, kind of the rivalry with LSU upsetting South Carolina. So I think we'll remember that on the women's side, but the men's side, you know, so many storylines, but the Strother three really sticks out to me.
I would have to say, best on the women's side, Caitlin Clark, when she brushed off South Carolina shooter. That was one of the most disrespectful things I've ever seen live. And then Jim Nance, last tournament, watching him watch one shiny moment, that was one of the best things I've ever seen.
Agreed.
So I want to thank you both for joining us throughout this whole Bracketology run. It's been great getting to talk to you. And we have truly enjoyed having you both on the show. That was definitely a slam dunk of a March. And back to you, Elise and Patrick at the desk.
Slam dunk is right. Thank you so much, Matt. It's been a blast to hear your sports talks this year on Bracketology. With that, all of us at GUTV want to thank you for signing up for our brackets and playing along with us.
And make sure to mark your calendars to sign up next year. We'll see you all again in March 2024, and congrats to the winning teams and Bracketology winners. That's a wrap on 2023. Go Zags!